Hello children, I welcome you all to another interesting episode of EduSat. In this episode, we will be discussing about verbs. In fact, in the previous segment also, we had discussed about verbs. We had taken into examples different kind of verbs and how they can be used in a grammatically correct way. In this particular part, I will be dealing with a few activities and you might find those examples very useful from examination point of view. So, please keep your copies and pens ready so that you can note down whatever you find important as I teach through. So, let us start with verb part 2. In this particular activity, look at this particular activity. In this activity, we have to identify the auxiliary verb and the main verb in the following dialogues. Now, we have to circle the auxiliary verbs and underline the main verbs. What is the first sentence? Maggie came to say goodbye. She was dressed in black. So, what do I want? I want the main verb and I want the auxiliary verb. So, what will be the answer? The main verb is came and say and the auxiliary verb is the answer. Similarly, let us go to the next sentence. Meena, are you leaving today? So, in this sentence children, what will be the main verb? The main verb will be leaving. And what will the auxiliary verb be? The auxiliary verb will be are, A-R-E. Main verb is leaving and auxiliary verb is are. Now, look at another sentence. Maggie, yes, today is the day of my departure. Maggie says a particular thing which is, yes, today is the day of my departure. Now, in this particular sentence, do we find the presence of an auxiliary verb? Yes, we do, and it is, I-S is. Look at the next example. Meena, how long will it take to reach your country? Which part of the country do you live in? Now, which is the main verb and which is the auxiliary verb? The main verb in this particular sentence is take, reach and live, while the auxiliary verb is will and do. So, see children, how we are able to identify which is the main verb and which is the auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb we had mentioned in the earlier segment that it is a helping verb. It is an indicative verb, while the main verb almost is an action verb. Okay? So, in this particular sentence, the main verb is take, reach and live and the auxiliary verb is will and do. Maggie, I do not know exactly where I am posted until I arrive there. This is a sentence which is spoken by Maggie. She has said, I do not know exactly where I am posted until I arrive there. Now, in this particular sentence, also we have to identify which is the main verb and which is the auxiliary verb. Now, see, the main verb almost always denotes a sense of purpose and action. So, what would be the main verb in this particular sentence? It is know, posted and arrive. And what will be the auxiliary verb? It is do and am. Now, coming to the next activity, I am sure children you would have understood how I identified the main verb and how I identified the auxiliary verb. I will again repeat the fact that auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. They help to convey the meaning of a particular sentence, and a verb represents an action in most of the sentences. The primary verb or the main verb that usually represents the action in most of the sentences that were discussed in activity number 1. Now, come to activity number 2. What does it say? We have to choose the correct alternative given in the brackets to fill in the blanks and to complete the conversation. One has been done. In fact, I have done everything for you. All of these sentences are supposed to be given to you and you will have to spot out or complete the conversation by spotting out the correct answer. But since in this particular episode we are here to guide you through this, I have given you correct answers for each alternative. Okay? So, look at the particular sentence. Sunil, I haven't seen Vivek all day. So many options were given: have, haven't, hasn't. But what would be the correct option? I haven't seen Vivek all day. Similarly, I haven't either. This is spoken by another person, Leena. So you see, the conversation has to be completed in a grammatically correct manner. In the first sentence, it would be I haven't seen Vivek all day, which is spoken by Sunil. Leena, who is another party to the conversation, she says, I haven't either. I don't know where he is. Okay? So, let us see what happens in the next part. Sunil, who left this note? Now, this is spoken by Sunil. Leena, Vivek must have. It's his handwriting. See, there are a lot of options that have been given in the brackets. Like in the first part, you have been given 3 options: have, haven't, hasn't. Second options also have, haven't, don't. Third option also must have, may have. But amongst all the options, you have to identify which word sounds grammatically correct. That is the most appropriate way, or what is the most appropriate way a sentence sounds correct. That is how you will fit in your options. Accordingly, you will get your correct answer. Normally children, if you forget which is the main verb, which is the auxiliary verb, or what particular verb you have to insert where, just think in your mind how a sentence will sound grammatically correct. What should I do, or what should I insert in the brackets so that when I speak that sentence aloud, it will sound grammatically correct. Repeat it in your own mind, repeat the sentence in your own mind after framing it, and then you will see which amongst the choices sounds the best to you, if at all you forget. Now, you should not forget, because in the first segment we have told you how to place verbs in conjunction with words, how to place them in a grammatically appropriate manner. So, now what does Sunil say in this particular slide? But he dash say where he is gone. Hasn't, don't, doesn't are the options. So, what will be the correct answer? He doesn't say where he is gone. Now, again what does Leena say? He would have if he wanted us to know where he dash. Where he has gone will be the correct option from amongst does go and was gone. Has gone will be the correct option. Now, again what does Sunil say? Do you think he dashed to his grandpa's house? What are the options given? Was gone, was going, has gone. Do you think he has gone to his grandpa's house? What does Leena say again? He might have, who knows? Now Sunil, dash do you think he'll telephone? Are, have and do are the options. So, what will be the answer? Do you think he will telephone? Do you think he'll telephone? Leena, he might, I am not sure. Now again Sunil, what does he say? Has he taken his bicycle? Has was the dash here, has was the blank here. So, I have filled it up using has. What were the options? Does, has, is. So, has is the most appropriate option. Now, Leena, what does she say? He must have because it is not there. Sunil, he dash acting very strangely this morning. What were the options? Is, does, was. So, what does he say? He was acting very strangely this morning. Okay? Leena, I know he dash. We should have asked him why. What are the options for this particular sentence? Was, had, did. So, what would be the correct answer for the blank? I know he was. Sunil, I would have, but I dash have time. So, what can the blank be filled up with? From amongst the options don't, am not and didn't, what do you think will be the correct option to fill up the blank? It will be don't. I don't have time, because I am not have time does not sound correct. I didn't have time also sounds inappropriate, but I don't have time sounds the most appropriate option. So, you will fill up the blank with the word don't. Next, Leena, can't we phone his grandpa? What does Sunil say? We could, but we dash got his number. So, what are the options? Don't, aren't, haven't. What can we say? We can say we could, but we haven't got his number. So, haven't will be the most appropriate option. Okay? In activity 3, we will mark the subject and verb agreement in the following sets of sentences. In the previous slides, we were identifying which was the main verb and which was the auxiliary verb. In this particular slide, we will mark the subject and the verb agreement in the following sets of sentences. Now, look at the first sentence. I am in the classroom. So, what will be the subject? What will be the subject in this particular sentence? Subject will be I. And what will be the verb agreement? The verb agreement will be am. I am in the classroom. The subject will be I and the verb agreement will be am. Second, we are in the classroom. So, what will be the subject and what will be the verb agreement? What would be the answer, children? The first subject here will be we and the verb agreement will be are. Okay? You are in the classroom. What will be the subject and what will be the verb agreement? Look carefully, children. Look at the sentence. You are in the classroom. What will be the subject? The subject will be you. And what will be the verb agreement? The verb agreement will be are. Now, what is the next sentence? They are in the classroom. Now, in this particular sentence, what is the subject? The subject is they and verb agreement is are. The students are in the classroom. Now, in this particular sentence, what would be the primary subject? The primary subject is the students and what is the verb agreement? The verb agreement is are. Okay? So, you know, during the initial stages of grammar, you were taught how to identify a subject. Yes? So, in this particular sentence or in these particular sentences that we have been discussing so far, it is very important that you identify the subject correctly. Once you identify the subject correctly, the verb agreement automatically follows. Yes? So, your primary object here is to identify the subject correctly. In sentence number 3, you is the subject. In sentence number 4, they is the subject. And in sentence number 5, the students is the subject. Mostly the subjects are placed during the initial phases of the sentences. So, it becomes easier for you to identify as you read the sentence and try to pick out which is the subject and which is the verb agreement. Now, children, let us move on to the next slide. Look at this particular sentence. What does it say? He is in the classroom. Now, again, like I said, you have to identify the subject and you have to identify which is the verb agreement in this particular sentence. How did I tell you that you can identify the subject particularly in sentences like these? They are placed during the initial phases of the sentences. So, what will be the subject here? He. And what will be the verb agreement? is. Now, let us look at the next line or the next sentence. She is in the classroom. So, let us identify the subject now in this particular sentence. The subject is she. And what is the verb agreement? The verb agreement is, is. Okay. Now, look at the last sentence. Meena is in the classroom. So, who becomes your subject here? Your subject is Meena, and what is the verb agreement? Is in the classroom. So, the verb agreement is. Now, children, this is another example. The teacher is in the classroom. How will you identify the subject? Like I said, the subject is mostly placed during the initial phases of the sentence. So, the teacher will be the subject and the verb agreement will be is. Now, look at sentence number 10. The teacher and the students are in the classroom. Who would be the subjects here? In this particular sentence, there are two subjects. So, what are the subjects? The teacher and the students, or rather, who are the subjects? The teacher and the students. They are the subjects. And what is the verb agreement? The verb agreement in this particular sentence is are. Okay? Now, moving on to sentence number 11. The cow eats grass. Let us see what is the subject in this particular sentence. Obviously, the subject will be the cow. And what will be the verb agreement? Eats. See how it is indicating an action. Verb agreements are mostly indicative of actions. Yes. So, a verb is something that indicates an action. So, also verb agreements are indicative of actions. And subject is somehow always placed during the beginning of the sentence. So, once you read the sentence mindfully, you will be able to point out which is the subject and which is the verb agreement. Now, coming on to the next sentence. The teacher is in the classroom. Now, I am sure all of you can easily identify the subject. The subject is the teacher. And what will be the verb agreement in this particular case? It would be is. The teacher and the students are in the classroom is the next sentence. So, how will you identify the subject? You see again, or who is the subject? The teacher and the students, they are the subjects. And what is the verb agreement? The verb agreement is are. Yes. Now, this is again a repetition of the former sentence. The cow eats grass. Subject is the cow and verb agreement is eats. What are the types of verbs that you can see in this particular category? Type of verb, what is it, and what are the examples in each particular case? This is just a recap of whatever you have been shown in the previous slides. So, if you have your copies and pens, please make a table like this. On the first hand, you will write the type of verb in the first row. In the second row, you will write what is it, and in the third, I have provided you with examples. If you make a chart like this, it will become exceedingly easy for you to remember about the type of verb, about what is it, and about examples. Now, one by one, we will go through the table. Action. First of all, we will define an action verb. What is it? Now, action verb, it refers to physical actions that are performed with bodies or objects. The first category of verb that we have defined refers to an action verb. Children, if at all the rows are not visible on your television screens, I am reading it aloud for that purpose so that you can listen to me and write down whatever content has been displayed in the rows and columns. So, the type of verb is the first row, description of the verb is the second row, and examples come in the third row. I have described the action verb first. What is it? It refers to physical actions that are performed with bodies and objects. Now, physical actions come in so many varieties. I have given you a few examples. Run, swim, help, and see, cats chase mice. Now, in this short sentence, can you identify the action verb? Can you identify the action verb in this short sentence? It will be chase, because it is an action verb. It indicates a physical action that is being accomplished. It would be chase. Stative. The type of verb that we are describing here is stative. It describes things like qualities, states of existence, opinions, beliefs, and emotions. So, what are the examples of stative verbs that we might want to give? Love, want, own. The mansion has 5 bathrooms. So, here in this particular sentence or in this particular example, if we were to identify the stative verb, what would it be? I have written it in bold letters, has. The mansion has 5 bathrooms. Coming on to the next type, transitive verb. A verb that is accompanied by a direct object in a sentence. Transitive, intransitive, linking, and auxiliary. Please pay attention while I explain these categories. So, action and stative have been explained. Now, we come on to transitive. What is a transitive verb? It is a verb which is accompanied by a direct object in a sentence. Let me give you a few examples. Leonardo ate a delicious pepperoni pizza. Now, what will be the transitive verb in this particular sentence? It would be ate, because it is a verb which is accompanied by a direct object. The direct object is the delicious pepperoni pizza. The wealthy man bought 3 paintings. The object is 3 paintings, and what will be the transitive verb? It will be bought. She really hates broccoli. Broccoli is the object. So, what is the verb that accompanies the direct object? It is hates. Now, moving on to the next category, we have intransitive verb. What is an intransitive verb? Let us describe it first. It is a verb that is not used with a direct object. In the previous category, the verb was accompanied by a direct object, but here in intransitive category, the verb that is not used with a direct object is referred to as an intransitive verb. Now, look at the sentences. Airplanes fly. What will be the intransitive verb? It will be fly. The children slept while adults work. The verb will be slept. The terrified monkeys hid in the trees after they saw the gigantic hungry snake. What will it be? It will be hid. Similarly, coming to linking verbs, they are stative verbs that link a subject with a subject complement. So, what are the examples? Be, become, seem. Mike is a great dancer. So, is. And the last refers to auxiliary verbs which work with other verbs to change the meaning of a sentence, and we have many examples. The musician has performed in a concert all over the world. The answer would be has. Has is the helping or auxiliary verb. So, children, I am very sure if you have gone through the episodes part 1 and 2 and verbs, your clarity about verbs would be intact and you should be able to answer all questions relating to examination purpose. Thank you.